Ladies and gentlemen, it's time. Red hot, sizzling, Age of Sigmar, battle report goodness. Now, the last time you saw these dark Aelves, you may remember that they were a little bit distressed. Their tower was demolished by the Duardin war machines before they could complete their evil ritual that would have brought much evil to the lands. And the Duardin weren't going to stand for that, and in fact, they successfully brought down the tower. So, the Dark Aelves are not best pleased about that. So, they've decided to take the fight to the Duardin's home. And as you can see, from this luscious field is a cave entrance that leads into an ancient Duardin temple, full of Yore gold, and Duardin guardians of the Yore gold, including the Anvil of Doom. Now, the expedition that went out to demolish the tower has not yet returned, featuring the victorious Belegar Ironhammer. So, the guardians of the cave are going to have to fend off this Dark Aelf incursion until Belegar and his Ironbreaker comrades return to potentially save the day. Within the Duardin temple, we have 7 piles of Yore gold that you can see here. We have 6 small ones. Then, atop the Dragon Fate dais, we have another one, guarded by Alric Big Butts, the infamous Slayer. And each one of these piles of Yore gold will be worth a point. The large one will be worth 2. Killing Alric Big Butts will also be worth 2. If the Dark Aelves can score 6 points by taking the Yore gold and killing Alric Big Butts, then they will consider it a success. To steal the Yore gold, they're going to have to move into contact with it, at which point it moves around as part of their unit, and then they can dispose of it in one of these rancid pools that have sprouted up. Have not yet been closed by the Duardin engineers, so ripe for the depositing of Yore gold in there if they want to soil it for all eternity, so no Duardin would ever look twice at it ever again. Also, these pools, you may notice, if you were to look outside the cave, there is a larger pool here. These are all interconnected underground, so any Dark Aelf units that want to risk it could try and travel through this pool and come out from one of the others within, but there is a risk that they could be pulled to their death by some abomination lurking within the depths. We'll see if they want to risk it or not, or whether they fancy going through this choke point, the triple choke point of death, as it were, into the Duardin front lines. At some point during the game, Belegar Ironhammer and his Ironbreakers are going to be coming into play. That will be determined on a dice roll at the start of each turn, and they will be able to enter at any table edge of my choosing. You may have noticed that the Duardin are pretty much covering the front lines and leaving the back exposed, even though there could be Dark Aelves popping up through the pools. That's because I'm counting on Belegar and his buddies coming in and saving the day in the back field, as it were. So, of course, the Dark Aelves are being led by the legendary Mr. Remington Steele, and he's going to describe his forces right now.
Remington's back, my friends, and fellow patrons. We have our Dark Riders over here on the flank, and then behind them we have the Scourge Runner Chariot, and the guy in there has a harpoon. And to the right of him we have, this time, counts as a Hydra. Now, last time I used the Charybdis, but this baby is going to come on in a later turn. It's going to come out the mouth of the cave, enraged at the dwarves, and with the lust of Yore gold and dwarven beards to chew on. He's going to hopefully make a big impact, because this baby is very, very hard to kill.
Because rumour has it that the Hydra is actually refusing to enter the cave while legendary Slayer Alric Big Butts is still alive. He's probably wise as well to have that attitude, because he might get chewed up by those axes. So what else have you got?
Well, to my left and your right of those Dark Riders, we have the legendary Blackguard. A full complement of warriors there, and they are going to be hard to kill. And they match up really, really well against the elite units of Andy's army. And behind the Blackguard, we have the Bloodrack Shrine housing a Medusa on top. Let's see if I can catch Andy out with the blood rack stare again, which will cause him some mortal wounds if he catches my eye. Next to them, I've got a repeater bolt thrower. Now this baby, I think it fires 6 shots or even more than that per round, so it can be quite deadly. Behind that, we have my main character of this army. It is a Dark Elf Master with the battle standard, which enables Dark Elves to re-roll 1s to wound. And just in front of him we have the Sorceress, and to her left we have some rabid Witch Elves there, and they've brought along their cage, so hopefully maybe I can get a bonus point if I capture a dwarf character or something in that cage so I can torture him later on. Behind them we have some of the new models, but I'm going to count them as Sisters of Slaughter because they're just, I really like those choices. I've got one with a whip there, so you can see those whips are going to come into action. They were deadly last battle, and they ripped apart Andy's miners. Let's see what they do this time. Then we've got some Doomfire Warlocks. Yeah, they can be pretty cool as well. And next to the Doomfire Warlocks, I've got a Beastmaster on a Manticore. Nice little conversion there. And I've done a lot more work with the paint jobs now. There's just a few models left to finish up, but I'm really proud of these, and I really don't want to lose this battle. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. One more thing, guys. See, I forgot this last battle. At the back there, you can see a Skulky Assassin. Just he's going to pop up out of one of the combat units at some point in the battle. But which unit will he be part of? Well, I'm not going to say just yet.
Very sneaky. So, we have 10 dwarf warriors armed with great weapons. Not a huge unit, but they're going to stand firm with those Duardin stubborn beards of theirs. In the centre, we have 10 hammerers, backed up by 10 iron drakes, or iron drakes as they are known. Down here we have 10 more dwarf warriors, these ones with hand weapon and shield. Then, of course, we have Alric Big Butts guarding that huge pile of your gold in the centre, with the Anvil of Doom close behind, ready to administer its buffs and devastating bolts of death. And over here, of course, you can't go to battle without an organ gun, so that is sitting right there. So not a huge amount of models out there for the Duardin. Looking a bit thin on the ground, but they will be backed up by those 10 Iron Breakers and Belagar Ironhammer at some point, with any luck.
Brothers, sisters, the Duardin scum destroyed our temple. The ritual did not go off as planned. There is only one course of action. Take their your gold!
Lads, you know me, Alric Big Butts, and I cannot lie. The dark Aelf scum advance on our homeland. They'll learn the hard way that nobody touches your gold.
Okay folks, it's time to determine who is going to take the first battle round.
Everyone who knows Remington knows I have had some terrible luck with my dice, so I've got a choice of 3 kinds here. I've got the elf ones here, which are kind of the neutral ones. I've got the white ones, which are always kind of a bit luckier. And I've got this Games Workshop skull dice, which are really good if you want to roll 1s. So I'm not going to risk them for this roll-off. I'm going to go with the red ones.
Here we go.
Highest wins?
Yep.
3. Alright, 50-50. And he doesn't get first turn.
It's a 2. Wow. We're back at the end of Duardin turn 1. Very, very uneventful, since nothing has come to within range yet. Everything's edged forward a little bit, just to block this choke point a little bit more. Including the organ gun moved as well a little bit actually, just because it's out of range, so it might as well give itself a bit more of a chance to hit in the next couple of turns. Iron Drakes had the same attitude. The Anvil of Doom, he struck the rune and gave the hammerers +1 to their armour save until my next hero phase, so that could come up. And the big news of this turn was that I rolled a 6 for my reinforcements already. So, Belagar and his Iron Breakers have come on instantly, so they're just sitting at the back of the cave here. They've arrived just in time, and in fact we're going to get some inspiring words from Belagar right now.
Me Ironbreaker brothers, it seems our home is under siege. Lay waste to that dark Aelf scum. To the fight, lads.
Dark Aelf turn 1. Now, first things first, down here, these witch elves successfully navigated the slime tunnel network and popped out right here, deep within Duardin territory, staring down those Ironbreakers. So they're going to cause quite a bit of problems, because they're very close to those 2 piles of your gold already now. 1 unit per turn can enter this way. 2d6, if they roll the double, then they get stuck. If they roll the double 1, they just drown and die. So they're alive and well, and they made it inside. So the risk paid off there. Over here, not a huge amount of action, because we're still just closing the distance right now. But they've moved up, some of them quite quickly. Some of them not so much, because they're waiting to be the next unit to pile into the tunnel by the looks of it. The Dark Riders moved up and fired their crossbows into this unit of dwarf warriors. They killed 2 of them, and another one, even though he's in his home, he decided he'd had it enough. So maybe he's run off and just gone to hide under his bed until the bad people go away. The repeater bolt thrower, lurking at the back behind the slime pool, unleashed its fury upon the hammerers, who, since they were aided by the +1 armour save from the anvil, only lost 1 model from that. So only 1 of them died, and they were within range of a dispossessed hero, which is the Dragon Slayer, so they didn't need to take a battle shock test. Time to get the live roll-off for turn number 2. Who's going to get that first go?
Right, Remington's going to take the chance with the skull dice.
Right, here we go. It's a 5 for the Duardin, and it's a 4. Wow. Duardin turn 2. And at the front line, not a huge amount of action. The hammerers moved up a little bit, reorganised themselves after the casualties, mainly. The Iron Drakes didn't move up because they wouldn't have been able to get into range to shoot yet, so they're just sitting, waiting for the enemy. The organ gun, however, unloaded with 3 barrels, successfully rolled so that it could actually fire, into the Manticore, and did 5 wounds to it. So it's now at half strength, so significantly weakened. However, the main event for this turn, at the back, the Ironbreakers and Belagar made a beeline for the Witch Elves. The Ironbreakers did make it into combat with a successful charge, but Belagar didn't quite make it, so he's just sitting at the back there. He did put Oath of Vengeance onto this unit of Witch Elves, so I gained an extra attack in close combat against them. Their assassin also popped out and had a go, and the end result of all this was that the Ironbreakers killed all these Witch Elves, one of which was a result of battle shock, and the Witch Elves struck back and killed 3 Ironbreakers, and then I rolled terribly on the battle shock test, and 2 more of them ran away. So the Ironbreakers down to half strength, and they're looking a little bit vulnerable against all those Witch Elves now, with the assassins still there. So Belagar's going to have to get his butt in here pretty quick to help out, I think. The only other thing of note, the anvil also struck the rune to boost the saving throw of the hammerers by 1, just in case the Dark Aelves get 2 turns in a row coming up, and they might need it. So, moving on to the Dark Aelf turn 2. We're part way into Dark Aelf turn 2, so we're going to sum it up because the combat phase is about to get complicated, so we'll probably lose track, try and surmise all of it in one go. So as you can see, lots of movement and charging has gone on. These Dark Riders have charged into this unit of warriors down here who took a casualty from the shooting attack of the chariot, who decided not to charge, decided to shoot instead. The Iron Drakes have taken 3 casualties as a result of the bolt thrower shooting. You can see that these Blackguard are stuck in the tunnel. That's because they rolled a double 5, and on the roll of a double, then they're wedged somewhere underneath the earth, stuck there until next turn. The Sisters moved up here, behind this piece of terrain, trying to avoid being shot at next turn. And over here, the Manticore and the Doomfire Warlocks have moved forward and charged into those Dwarf Warriors who look quite doomed, it has to be said. And we're moving into the combat phase now. So we've got this fight down here, that double team action up there, and still this combat remains as well. So the old Remster has got some decisions to make regarding which one of those he wants to activate first. So we'll get back to you and let you know how the combat phase pans out very shortly. So, in the combat phase, the Dark Aelves decided that the wounded Manticore would go first before he was whittled down even more, but he did no damage. So that wasn't worth it at all. We swung over here and the Ironbreakers struck, and they killed 5 of the Witch Elves. But as you can see, when it was the Witch Elf and the Assassin's turn to strike, they killed a few of the Ironbreakers and the rest disappeared from battle shock, actually. So that didn't go very well. Over here, these dwarves were cut down by the Dark Riders quite handily.
Savagely.
It was quite savage, and then the last one decided he'd seen enough in the battle shock phase, so he ran away. Over here, I told you the Manticore went first, but then, when the Doomfire Warlocks struck, they also did nothing, because those saves were rolled for the Dwarf Warriors. So all passed, and then the Dwarf Warriors struck at the Manticore and did 1 wound to it, which isn't really significant. And they also did a wound on the Warlocks as well, and that reminds me that the Dark Riders took a single wound as well before they were victorious in their combat. So, it's not looking too healthy for the Duardin at the moment, but of course there is still the objective to fight for, all the Ore Gold still intact for now. So we're going to see who's going to get the first crack at the 3rd battle round over here. So what colour dice are the Aelves going for this time?
I'm going for white this time.
There we go. It's a 6.
Shit. Remington.
It's a 5. Duardin first again.
I needed that.
Partway through the 3rd Duardin battle round. We're just about to head into the combat phase, so I'll sum up everything that's taken place up to this point. Belagar Ironhammer put his Oath of Vengeance on the Witch Elves again, because no one else was in range, and he felt like charging them to get some sweet vengeance for his Ironbreaker buddies. So he's going to be kicking their butts shortly. The Anvil of Doom decided to try and put +1 armor save onto the Hammerers again, but it rolled a 1, so failed. But the Hammerers did move over here and charge into the Dark Riders. Here, the Iron Drakes shot at the Doomfire Warlocks, killed 3 of them, which was nice. The Organ Gun attempted to fire at the Manticore, but rolled a 1 for its barrels, so it's jammed and can't shoot. Then Mr. Slayer came down from his perch, putting himself at risk, because he feels like he's needed in this combat, so he's gone into the Doomfire Warlocks. And that's it so far, so we've got a few combats to do, and then I'll be back to report on the result of that. Okay, so the Duardin's combat phase of the 3rd battle round. So I decided to activate the Hammerers first, and managed to slay 3 Dark Riders. And when they eventually got round to attacking back last, they didn't kill anybody. Over in this combat, the Witch Elves were the second activation of the combat, and they managed to put 4 wounds on Belagar, but because he halves them, he only took 2 wounds, so he's down to 3. And when he hit them back, he killed 6, because he chose to attack twice, because he felt it was quite important to get as many of them killed as possible right now. So he used his once per game ability to get that done. So 6 of them toasted. And we're going to get some live battle shock for this Witch Elf here to see if it can stay alive.
So I need a 1 or 2.
And he rolled a 5. So all the Witch Elves are dead. In this combat, the Dwarf Warriors were the first ones to have a go, and I think they killed a Doomfire Warlock. And then the Slayer, when he eventually got a crack as well, he killed the rest of them. So they're all gone. The Manticore, who took 1 wound when the Warriors struck, he was true to form and only killed 1 dwarf in retaliation, so he's been whittled down even more now. He's only on 3 wounds, and he's not been very effective thus far, and Mr. Rem is not too pleased with him. After spending all that time painting him, look at that lovely craftsmanship that's gone into that, and he's not repaying that effort at the moment. I'm going to do a live battle shock test now, see if I can roll exceptionally badly for these dwarves. Nope. So they don't mind the fact that one of their brethren was cut down by the guy on top of the Manticore. And now we're going to get a live battle shock test for the Dark Riders as well, who've taken 3 casualties.
Okay, they're on Bravery 6, but they add 1 because they're standard. So on Bravery 7. That's what happens. Ha, of course.
6, so that's a total of 9, so that means 2 more are going to run away, which is all of them. So off they go. The tide has turned significantly in the Duardin favour in this turn. So we'll see what the Aelves can do to combat that as we enter their third battle round. Dark Aelf turn 3. So first of all, the Blackguard finally navigated their way out of the tunnel system. They was just stuck under there for a while, but they've found their way popped up here, next to Belegar. Also, the Dark Elf Master with a standard also popped through the tunnel. He didn't get held up because the Blackguard moved on in front of him, so he came up over there on the other side. All on his own, looking at all that precious Your gold. Down here, the Assassin moved over towards this pile of gold here, bypassing Belegar. We'll see if that pays off. And then over here, we've got some charges going on. First of all, the Shrine attempted to kill some hammerers. With the Gaze, it managed to kill one. One of them met it in the eye, turned to stone, presumably. Over here, the Sisters of Slaughter moved forward and charged into the Dwarf Warriors and Mr. Big Butts. The Chariot attempted to charge somebody, so it would have had a choice of Big Butts, the Organ Gun, or the Iron Drakes, but it rolled a double 1 for its charge distance, which is quite horrendous. So that's the only thing that possibly could have failed, so it's just standing perfectly still. Spiteful Dominance was put on the Manticore, so that's going to benefit from that in the combat phase coming up. So, we'll get back to you with the result of all the close combat for this turn. It wasn't an overly complicated combat phase, so the Sisters of Slaughter went first, and they killed Alric Big Butts in one go, meaning that the Your gold wedged between his cheeks is now lost to the Dark Aelves, which is going to get him 2 scenario points in his quest to reach 6. So, chipping away at that objective slowly, the Sisters and the Manticore then completely butchered the Dwarf Warriors, who couldn't do anything back. There were only about 2 of them striking before the Manticore got to finish them off, so they're all dead. Big Butts is dead. This flank isn't looking healthy, but there is the Organ Gun still there. He needs to get a good roll next turn, though. So, we're going to roll to see who's going first in Battle Round 4. This would be a really good time for the Dark Aelves to get another go and really push home their advantage. So, here we go. It's only a 1.
Remington! 2!
It's a 2. The Dark Aelves get 2 in a row, possibly at the crucial time. Let's see if they can swing this game decisively in their favour. Dark Aelf turn 4 before we get to the combat phase. So, because Alric Big Butts is dead, the Hydra is no longer suffering from its crippling Slayer phobia, so it's come crawling out of the cave, where it was able to unleash its shooting attack against the Hammerers and fried 2 of them. You may have noticed that some of the Iron Drakes are dead, 4 in fact, and that was the doing of the Repeater Bolt Thrower, perched outside, which has done really well in this game, hasn't it? The command ability, yet again, to reroll 1s, was put onto the Manticore, and that has successfully charged into the Organ Gun. The Chariot has successfully charged into the remaining Iron Drakes, so they could be for the Toaster any minute. And the Blackguard over here charged into Belegar, because the Assassin was busy collecting the pile of Your gold and dragging it slowly back towards this pool. The Master, with the banner, is heading for that pile of gold, and the Sisters of Slaughter collected this pile, which they are taking back towards the entrance. It's not looking good for the Duardin, but it is a bit of a race against time, because the Aelves have only got 2 turns to get as much gold out of this vicinity as possible. So, let's see what happens in the combat phase, whether they can free up even more space by taking out the Organ Gun and the Iron Drakes. So, the combat phase was quite devastating. First of all, the Manticore continued the trend of being terrible, and only inflicted a single wound, or maybe 2 wounds actually, onto the Organ Gun itself. And then when the crew eventually got to hit back, they did nothing, even though it's in a weakened state. The Shrine took significant damage from the Hammerers.
5 wounds.
And then when that hit back, it killed a further 2, which is going to make their battle shock all the more painful in a minute. In this combat here, the Iron Drakes and the Chariot, not a whole lot was achieved at all. They just completely failed against each other. Down here, though, this is the unfortunate moment. All these Blackguard, with their 2-inch range, were able to strike at Belegar, and they utterly crushed him. He took 7 wounds, which even halved was still enough to finish him off. We've got some live battle shock coming up now. So the Hammerers, they took 4 casualties this turn. Their bravery is 7. 4, so that's a total of 8, so another one of them toddles off. away he runs into the hills. The Iron Drakes are in a very similar situation. They've taken 4 casualties. They have a bravery of 7 as well. It's 3, so that's 4, which is 7, so they're fine. They don't mind fighting that chariot at all. Now it's going to go on to the Duardin turn 4, and it's looking a little bit bleak at the moment, but I may have 1 or 2 tricks up my sleeve to try and salvage this scenario. Avenge me, lads. Duardin turn 4, and before we get to the combat phase, which is going to be action-packed, no doubt, some interesting developments first. The Iron Drakes, with their Trollhammer torpedo, managed to shoot the Manticore to death. So it's actually dead. It's so stunned that it died that it's just standing there perfectly upright for the moment, but it'll shortly be removed. Then the organ gun turned round and had a go at this guy, this master, because I'm thinking, well, I'm not going to win just by killing everything, so I've got to be strategic here and stop some of that gold escaping. So it took 3 wounds off him, so he's at death's door. The anvil also targeted him, but for the second time this game, rolled a 1 for its ability. So that did not happen, which would have been very nice. As we move into the combat phase, we've only got the Iron Drakes versus the chariot, and the shrine versus a couple of hammerers. So we'll be back with the result of that very shortly. A bit of a pillow fight in the combat phase. The Iron Drakes did put 1 damage point onto the chariot, who then failed to hurt them back. Over here, the hammerers put a little bit of damage onto the shrine, and the shrine killed one of them in retaliation, so there's only 2 of them remaining. And now, what could be a pivotal roll, but might not be, we're going to have the roll off to see who's going first in battle round number 5. So, what colour dice are you going for this time?
Red.
Which one's lucky? Right, here we go.
Remington.
Oh, it's the Aelves going first. Battle round 5 coming up. Okay, the Dark Aelf turn 5. I'll give you the your gold state of play first of all. So the assassin abandoned this pile, which has left it to the Blackguard, so they're going to be able to move that into the pool next turn. The assassin went to retrieve that one, so he's reasonably far away, so he's going to need a decent run roll to get there. Over here, this guy, this master who's been wounded, moved his gold closer with a nice run as well. Over at this end, the Witch Elves deposited their your gold at the entrance, so that one's in the bank. And the Hydra collected a piece from here as well, and with a very nice run for that as well, dragging it back towards the entrance. So, in the shooting and the combat, the organ gun was utterly annihilated by the repeater bolt thrower, so that's dead, which was part of my plan to turn this one round, so that's dead. Here, the 2 Iron Drakes were killed in combat against the chariot. They didn't do anything in return. And the shrine finished off the final 2 hammerers, unfortunately. So it's not looking too good for the Duardin. We've only got left a couple of crewmen, a single Iron Drake, and the Anvil of Doom. However, I do have a plan. We'll see if it actually comes to fruition though. Duardin turn 5. Extremely short, because I've barely got anything left. The crew decided to do nothing. In fact, the dead guy's still there. However, the Anvil of Doom did manage to kill this guy by striking the rune, putting D3 mortal wounds on him, did just enough to finish him off, so he's not going to be able to escape with that your gold. Meaning that this guy is really the pivotal one, because everyone else is kind of untouchable. I'm not going to be able to kill all the Blackguard with the your gold, and the Hydra is untouched right next to the exit. So the only things I have left that can actually shoot this guy are the Anvil of Doom and the Trollhammer torpedo, both of which would have to do a lot of damage and successfully hit him in the first place, and that would rely on me getting turn 6 first. If the Aelves get turn 6 first, then they'll be able to escape with the Blackguard and the Hydra, meaning they would need 1 more pile of your gold to win. So this guy would then have to get an average run roll to get into the pool with the gold. So it's very, very close right now. So let's get a roll to see who's going to be going first in turn 6. Both sides could really do with this. So what colour dice are you going to use for this pivotal roll, Mr. Rem?
White.
Right, here. It's a 1.
Remington.
It's a 2.
Yes.
So the Aelves are going to get their first crack at it. So we'll come back to you after he's done all the obvious movement, and then we'll get that crucial run roll live on camera. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Blackguard have deposited their gold in the pool. Over here, the Hydra has deposited his gold at the exit, meaning that one more pile of your gold needs to be retrieved by the Dark Aelves to claim victory, and it's their final turn. So the assassin, we've measured, and he is 10 inches away from this pool. He's got a movement of 6. For his run on the roll of a 4+, he will deposit the gold into the pool and claim victory. If he rolls 1, 2 or 3, he hasn't quite made it, and that will be a defeat. So has a game ever come down to a 50-50 dice roll like this before? So I've made Mr. Remington use one of the lucky skull dice. So let's see if he can get a 4+ to win the game.
Remington!
It's a 2. He doesn't quite make it, meaning that the Duardin held on just long enough so that reinforcements presumably are going to arrive any minute and reinforce the area and catch this assassin with his pants down and full of your gold. So it's a very, very close victory for the Duardin. You literally cannot get any closer than that, the game coming down to a 50-50 dice roll. So the Dark Aelves failed to take vengeance for the fallen tower. They did make it out there with a bit of your gold, but not quite enough to satisfy their dark overlords and ladies. What do you think, Mr. Remington? You like that scenario?
Yeah, it was cool. I thought I had a lot more troops than you did on the table, Andy. So initially I thought it could be a whitewash here, but never underestimate the power of the dwarves and also the power of the dice, because my rolls were shocking. The Manticore in particular was absolutely useless, and although I had a couple more characters than you, Andy, they did virtually nothing. The Master was chronic. I should have put him in with a unit to give him use his abilities. The Sorceress was also chronic. It was just because of the length of the table. It was so huge she couldn't really do anything. Her spells were just too far away. And then ultimately the Blackguard being stuck in the mud for a round meant that I couldn't get my troops to where the Yurgard was. But, you know, the Sisters of Slaughter were brilliant. They were a real joy to play with. And I cannily kept them back a bit, so they're out of the range of shooting. And then when they came into the attack, they were very effective. So I think them and the Reaper Bolt Thrower was phenomenal. That really did cut huge swaths of holes within your troops. And yeah, when the Blackguard got into combat, they were ruthless as well. So yeah, all in all, not too bad. The Blood-Rack Shrine was pretty useless. So I think that and the Manticore might have to go for the next bat report. The Hydra, although it had just made a brief appearance, was pretty powerful, so that one might stay.
I managed to hold you off for just long enough, didn't I, so that it was difficult to get the gold into the places you needed it. So I was fairly satisfied with the performance of most of the Duardin units, considering they were so horribly outnumbered. I think Belagar and the Ironbreakers not really working in tandem. The fact that the Ironbreakers made the charge and Belagar didn't was quite bad. Belagar being miles away from all the troops also wasn't very good. I think overall my strategy of not really trying to kill that much, just target the things that I thought were a threat when it came to the Yorgold towards the end, thankfully it paid off by managing to kill that Master. Although obviously there was that slice of luck involved with that final run roll, and obviously if earlier run rolls had been different, or if the Blackguard hadn't got caught in the tunnels, then it would have changed things as well. I had a couple of bad rolls though, like the organ gun not firing once, and the anvil failing to unleash its power. I think that was about twice. One of those could have proved crucial, but as it happens, in the end it didn't. So we're going to go into greater depth on this game once we've had a bit of time to digest it, probably on this week's show. So everyone should tune into that and listen to some in-depth analysis and some tactical insight. And if you've got any observations that you would like us to discuss on the show related to this game, then please leave them in the comments. And we'll catch you next time. Special thanks, of course, to all our wonderful patrons.
Assassin fell over a rock. Assassin, what a schmuck. And his dwarves win again. Remington's elves sing again. Defeat, defeat, the only song they know. Defeat, defeat, they're at Andy's feet. They lose again. Mm.